Good morning, and glad to have you back with us this morning for day number 12. As you noticed, I've kind of changed the background behind me. You can see a little bit more of the new setup that we've got downstairs in Booker Hall. Things are changing around here. We've got a lot of things going on, a lot of exciting things happening here at the church, but we want to dive right into 1 Peter. We're in 1 Peter chapter 2. We're going to be doing verses 11 and 12 today. So be aware of just really today, think about how we present ourselves to the world around us. As we're looking at these two verses, we really want to concentrate on our testimony to the world around us. Starting in verse 11, it says, "Beloved, I beg you as sojourners and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul." Peter lays it out from the very beginning, and he says that he's begging us as sojourners and pilgrims. The understanding here, and I think a lot of this really bears true, that we need to hold fast on, is the fact that this world is not our home. We get wrapped up so much in the stuff of this world, the things that are going on, how our lives are just overwhelmed by so many different things, and yet the realization for each believer ought to be that this is a temporary thing. Whether it's good or bad, it is only temporary. We are citizens of heaven. We are as he says in chapter 1, we are a peculiar people. We are a nation that God has created, and our citizenship is not of this world. We are people who are here temporarily. We're here just passing through. But he also says, abstain from fleshly lusts. And basically the idea here is to step aside, to move away, to have nothing to do with anything that would cause us or even lead us into sin. The idea, and Solomon really does bring this forward in the book of Proverbs, the idea is if we see something that's going to tempt us on one side of the street, we shouldn't be walking on that side of the street. Whether we engage in sin or not, we need to stay as far away from that as humanly possible. So what Solomon basically says in the Proverbs is, if you see temptation on one side of the street, you ought to be walking on the other side of the street. And the idea kind of rings true here with Peter as well in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 11. He says, abstain from fleshly lust. Those things that are the burning desires of our flesh, the carnal side of us as believers. Those things that would cause us to sin. We need to stay away from that. Keep that out of our lives. Don't let that in. Don't even give it a place. Because why? Well, he says, which war against the soul. These fleshly lusts, the sin that's in our lives. He uses a very particular analogy. He doesn't say it tickles. It doesn't say that it kind of gives place. It doesn't say that you get a mild cold from it. He said these things war against our souls. And that whole idea of warring, and this is a picture that would ring true for anybody who has seen military combat, you would understand it to be a very destructive just engagement. There is nothing clean or nice about war. You know, we can color it however we want to. We can talk about the glory of it. We can talk about the bravery, but yet war in and of itself is an ugly thing. And whenever we give place to the fleshly lusts in our lives, it's going to result in a very ugly and dangerous thing. Peter here is saying you need to stay completely away from that because it's going to destroy you. He goes on into verse 12 saying, having your conduct honorable among the Gentiles, that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may, by your good works which they observe, glorify God in the day of visitation. This is all about our testimony. You and I both know that we're going to struggle with sin in our lives. We're going to wrestle with the things that tempt us. We're going to wrestle with how people perceive Christ in our lives. What Peter is encouraging us to do is to carefully look at our lives and say, okay, there are people who are watching us. What kind of image are you projecting to the world around you? Are you projecting an image that says, this is an innocent person, this is a righteous person, or are you doing your own thing? They're going to accuse you no matter if you do the right thing or the wrong thing. But what Peter is saying here is, if you're doing the right thing, even when they accuse you of evil, they'll have no proof. They'll have no evidence to back it up. And when they have no evidence to back it up, all they're going to see is not just that you're an innocent person, not just that you're a righteous person, but they're going to see the God that you serve. And that's the idea that we need to really take hold of. We live in a day and age right now where there are so many things going on. There's so much, not just about what is true and what we hear, because you hear any level of truth in our world today. You hear politically on the left or the right, and we know that truth is probably somewhere in the middle. However, what we're really trying to project here is not a political statement. We're not trying to project even our own righteousness, but we're trying to project to the world what God can do in someone's life. And guys and ladies, we're going to be wronged in our lives. We're going to find people accusing us of things that aren't true. How we respond to that is oftentimes what draws people not to us, but to our Savior. Be careful what you're projecting today. Be careful that we're not, you can take the news of the virus however you wish. Whether it's serious, whether it's not serious, or whether it really is something in between. But are we projecting an attitude that Christ would have us project? Are we projecting something? Are we giving a testimony of the fact that God's in control? That God has got this in hand? That God is our focus? If we're not, then when we're accused of evil, we better be careful. Because that they will have proof, they will have evidence that we're not living up to the standard that Christ gave us. We need to love on other people, and we need to show that love to other people, even in times where we're quarantined, we're isolated. Be careful today what you project. Glad you could join us today. We will again get back into it next time. I hope to see you for day 13. See you next time.